Hi, Aunt Angel here. I want to share with you 5 things that you might want to consider if you're going to build a bottle wall. I've learned many things in my bottle wall construction, and what came to me off the top of my head as I was looking out here, first of all, is size. The thickness, regardless of which method you're using, the size, both height and thickness of the bottle is going to matter. It's going to matter more. Actually, it matters. It matters in all the cases that I can think of. So when you're collecting bottles, you're going to want to start to think about what design you want to make, or if you're just going to make a design out of whatever bottles that you are collecting, you're going to want to start to organize them in consistent like sizes. Isn't this awesome blue light coming in from up there? Natural blue light. That's one of the bonuses that you could expect from building a bottle wall. And I guess I hadn't mentioned color, but that seemed obvious to me. You do want to consider color, especially if you have a specific design in mind, and there are many great colors. I could show you over here. I don't know if you can see that. That's there's some amber. I'm trying to point. There we go. Some amber like ale bottles, all the way through. A lot of these are vodka or sparkling water and wine bottles, the blue ones, and then a lot of these clear ones are wine. These are wine as well. I think this was vodka. Anyway, point being, you're going to want to think about the size. You're probably already thinking about the color, but don't forget to think about the size when you're thinking about your design. That's going to have a big, effect in your design, both the tallness and the width. And then the other part, number 2, that you might not have thought of, that you're going to want to think about, is the thickness of the glass. That's not as important if you're building with this method, although it does impact to some extent the R factor, and then also how easily it's going to break. But when you're using this method where you're going to cut 2 bottles to make 1 dot, it's pretty, there's a lot of variation in how difficult it's going to be to cut them and how much breakage you might get. And so that's something to consider. There's kind of a sweet spot between really thin and really thick, which a lot of these are in that. So that's just something to think about as you are collecting glass or thinking about your design. Number 3 thing to think about when you're building a bottle wall is the ends, especially if you are building like this, which is the most common way I see built. Wine bottles often have this divot in the end, which can have an interesting, neat effect. And it's just something to consider because it is something that attracts dirt that's more challenging to clean sometimes. That said, there's also like any kind of, see this one here, you can see there's some writing on there. That tends to collect more, the mortar and papercrete and dust. So it can be a cleaning issue. Just again, something to consider when you're thinking about what you're going to collect for your bottle wall, that if you're going to be showing the ends, that you might want to look at those ends and choose, you can quickly kind of hone in out of what's available to you, what your favorite kinds of bottles are, especially if you're in the city and you have a lot of access. But if you're not, then, start with what you have or what you have access to, and then take a look at it and make a plan from there would be my advice. Number 4 thing to think about and consider is cleanliness and or the label. Some labels are really hard to come off. Some are actually printed on. So if you're using this side method, those are going to be something to give you a heavy sigh that you might want to avoid or, think about in your design. This method, labels don't matter very much. It's all going to get covered up, although in both methods, it matters that they're clean and sealed up before you seal them up. You don't want any moisture in there, and especially you don't want any oil in there. And unfortunately, a lot of the best square bottles tend to be the ones from, it's not unfortunate, but a lot of, over the years, people brought me some cool green square bottles, and they're almost always from olive oil, and that's usually, I just avoid those because the amount of soap that it takes to wash that oil out just isn't worth it for me. Now, again, if that's what you have access to, square bottles are one of my favorites. Some of my favorites, yeah, many square bottles are my favorites to build with because they give you that nice straight line, both on the side and the end, and are easier to design with than the roundness of bottles. Any case, that was number 4. Number 5 that you're going to want to think about before you build your bottle wall, perhaps, is storage. I'm not going to walk you out there because it might scare you, but there is many barrels of bottles in barrels out there that are, the actually more in control result of my bottle building projects. And over time, people have kindly started to bring me a lot of their blue bottles in particular when I asked for them. And then I myself have collected many especially if I hone in on a type I want. And so even if you're not like me and doing multiple projects or a big project, even for a small project, you're going to need to store the glass until you get it all together to start, probably. I mean, you could plan it out to where actually you're, getting it as you go, but I do think that it's, you're going to get the best results most likely if you get all your glass together for your design first and then build the project. And in that case, you are going to need a place to keep it, preferably like where it's not going to get dirty and dusty and any water on it, because water tends to, or at least where we are, we get hard water stains, and it's just hard water's hard to clean off. So there you have it. 5 things that you might want to consider that I have learned in building bottle walls, and I hope that's helpful to someone out there. Let me know if it is. Give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you're interested in any of this or want to learn more about papercrete building, bottle wall building, recycled art, some random music stuff I got going along here, along with, you never know what you're going to get on this channel, actually, but I am working on honing it in to better serve you. So if you would leave me a comment, let me know what you think or what you would like to see, I would appreciate it. And until next time, stay free.